Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Scott Wingerter Show. Today is April 8th, 2024. And if you're watching this after we are filming it right now, that means that all of the crazy conspiracy theories about the eclipse were not true and we all did make it. So we're glad to see you. All right, today we're going to do an election update because some things on our map have changed. If we look here at our map, we have Joe Biden winning the presidential race, 271 to Donald Trump's 251. What changed? Well, Pennsylvania right here has changed, and we're going to talk about that. But first, let me tell you about a interesting little story that's happening here in Nebraska. Now, Nebraska is an odd state, all right? Most states have a bicameral legislature. So you have your state House of Representatives and you have your state Senate. Nebraska has a unicameral Senate, right? So they have only one body in their legislature, and it's the Nebraska Senate, right? Nebraska is also an odd duck because it splits up its electoral votes by congressional district, similar to Maine. So those are the only two states that do that. Every other state in the nation is a winner-take-all state. So what happens if this area right here, Nebraska's first district, Nebraska's second district, what happens if it's no longer split up by congressional districts, but rather if the state Senate of Nebraska put forth a bill to change how they count their electoral votes and make it a winner-take-all state, what happens? That becomes red. And what happens to Joe Biden winning the presidential election? Well, that goes away. Interestingly enough, Turning Point USA, led by Charlie Kirk, and the new RNC chair are working to get this bill through the Nebraska State Senate as we speak right now. And the governor of Nebraska has said that if the bill passes the Senate, he will sign it. So we could have Nebraska changing how it counts its electoral votes here coming up in this November. And that could have, as you can just see right now, a dramatic impact on how the Electoral College ends up going. And remember, we're not even counting Wisconsin or Nevada in this, right? They have Arizona. So the polling data, let's take a look at the recent polls. Here we have, okay, Trump's winning Wisconsin barely. Trump is way up in Arizona. And on my map, I think it's blue. So we're going to switch that to red. I don't know why that turned blue. We have Georgia. Trump is up by 3.8. Okay, good. And then we have Michigan. Trump is up by 2. So we'll go ahead and make sure that that is actually red. So these scenarios are just sort of fun to play with to see how this could unfold. And then we have North Carolina. Trump's up by 4. Nevada's Trump's up by 3. Okay, so we'll make Nevada red and North Carolina's red. And then he is barely holding on in Wisconsin as well. So now you can see we're back up to 294. So what has changed on this map from my previous maps is the state of Pennsylvania has flipped from supporting Donald Trump to supporting Joe Biden. And we're going to take a look at why that is in the Real Clear politics average here. You see, what all this does is it takes all of the battleground states' polls and it averages them together. And so when we go into Pennsylvania here, we can take a closer look at Pennsylvania. So here we have Trump winning Pennsylvania in every single poll. He's tied in a couple, but all the other polls, it has Trump up by 4, by 2, by 3 points. And then you have this Franklin and Marshall poll, which just recently came out. It's the most recent poll. And then all of a sudden, Biden's up by 10. So that, to me, when I'm looking at these kinds of polls, all right, like, you know, the CNN poll is 3 points off from the Wall Street Journal poll, or it's 2 points off from this Fox News poll. Same with the Bloomberg. Okay, well, that's, you know, polling's a little bit difficult. Generally speaking, you have a 3 to 4 point margin of error. So realistically, all of these polls that you see down here where Trump's barely up, I mean, that might be where the electorate is leaning in the state of Pennsylvania. They might be leaning a little bit more Trump, but these polls all basically say the same thing, right? That it's a really close race. And if you held a gun to our head and made us make a guess as to which way it's going to go, we'd say Trump based upon what we're seeing in these polls, right? That's the big takeaway that you can come away with here with these polls here. This Franklin and Marshall poll, that is an outlier. I'm going to call it. That is an outright outlier. So that is an extremely flawed poll, most likely. And why do I say that? Well, because when we come in here and we start looking at how the poll was conducted, right? All the polls, you can click on them. You can go into it. You can really get into the data, really analyze the kinds of questions they ask, who they ask it to, where they're from, or how old are they? Do they have a college degree? All this stuff, right? So the majority of people in this poll that they're asking are from Philadelphia, which generally speaking, that's what is the number one determining factor if a president is going to win Pennsylvania, is how many people in Philadelphia get out and vote. If large amounts of people in Philadelphia come out and vote, they tend to be more Democratic. Well, then generally speaking, and as we've seen in electoral history going all the way back to 1988, there's only one time that the Republicans won Pennsylvania, and that was in 2016. So 1988, 1992, 1996, 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, all 7 elections in a row, Pennsylvania went for, 6 elections in a row, Pennsylvania went for the Democrats, right? The only outlier here is in 2016 when they voted for Trump. The Northeast, that's where I'm from, all right? That's a large population center up there in Erie County. They only polled 12%. Northwest, 8%. The Central, all right, where the majority of the Republican people in Pennsylvania live, 30%, all right? So you're going to get a little bit more skewed Democrat just based upon where you're asking these people and how they tend to vote in those areas. But the biggest thing that I want to point out here and why I don't trust this poll is when we come down here and we see, all right, party, regardless of how you are registered in politics as of today, do you think of yourself as a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent? So they're asking these people, who are you going to vote for in the presidential election coming up in November, if it's a race between Donald Trump and Joe Biden? They're asking 23% strong Republican, 7% Republican. When you add all of these up, 55% of these people that they're asking in this poll, I think they asked 870 people. So 55% are Democrat or lean Democrat in some way, shape, or form. They identify themselves as Democrat. Only 43% of the people that they ask are affiliated as a Republican. So if you ask 55% of the Democrats and 43% of the Republicans, wouldn't you expect, like Biden to be up by, say, I don't know, let me just pull something out of my head here, right off the cuff, 10 points? Yeah. This poll is garbage. I'm sorry to say. I don't believe the results here. This is an outlier, and I think we'll see as time goes on. I could be wrong. Hey, the prediction business in politics is always a risky move, right? But if I were a betting man, I'd say this poll is flawed. It will be proven to be an outlier as we go forward. And so I think that when you go over here and you look at Pennsylvania, I'm going to make it red, and I'm going to tell you why. Because Pennsylvania is not like some other states. Like here in Texas, we have an open primary, right? So I go to the polls and I vote in Montgomery County, Texas, and the poll worker sits there and they ask me when I show up and they say, okay, are you going to vote Republican or Democrat in the primary, right? They don't even do that in the general election. So you can affiliate yourself however you want every single election without doing anything. Pennsylvania is a closed primary. And so what that means is you have to register to vote. And on that voter registration form, you have to denote a party affiliation. It could be the Republican Party. It could be the Democrat Party. It could be the Communist Party of America. It could be the Green Party, whatever it is, right? You identify yourself with a particular political party, and then you can vote in that party's primary. If a Democrat wanted to vote in Pennsylvania in a Republican primary, they are not allowed to do so by law. So it's a really cool little system up there that can give you indications as to which way that electorate up there is going to go. When you look at how many new registered Republicans there are compared to new registered Democrats, the Republicans have registered something like 700,000 new Republicans this year, whereas the Democrats are at like 343,000 new Democrats. So almost by a 2-to-1 margin, the Republicans are out registering Democrats in Pennsylvania. I think that's hugely significant. And I think we'll see that going forward as this unfolds. The other area that I think you have to be worried for President Biden is that Trump seems to really be hitting some of that old school Democratic coalition pretty hard. Democrats lose ground with Black and Hispanic adults, says Gallup. Black and Hispanic voters deserting Democratic Party, says The Guardian. New York Magazine. Is Trump really making gains with Black and Latino voters? Are Black and brown voters really fleeing Biden? Bloomberg. Axios. Why Democrats are losing Black and Hispanic voters to the right. When you look at it, it's not like the majority of African Americans or Black people are going to vote for Trump, but he's increasing his voter margins in that particular demographic. From 2016, he increased it in 2020. And if it continues to do so, he's pulling votes away from a traditionally voting Democrat voting bloc. And the same is true with Hispanics. And it's even worse with Hispanics. Biden's poll numbers with Hispanics are far worse. It could very well be by the time that we're done with this next election here in November, when we do our poll analysis of how people actually voted, that roughly 50% of Hispanics are going to vote for the Democrats and 50% are going to vote for the Republicans. We might be split right down the middle, just like the rest of America, honestly, which kind of indicates to me that, from a sociological perspective, that Hispanics are really starting to integrate into American culture kind of seamlessly. And I think that's a great thing. I think that's really cool. So we're seeing, I think Trump is well on his way to winning still, it would be my guess. And my map, I guess, did technically change if Nebraska becomes a winner-take-all state. If the legislature is able to get that bill through and the governor signs it into law, I mean, hey, that's their state. They get to choose how their election code works, the same way that all these other states do, right? And so my current update on the electoral map would be 313 for the GOP to 225 for the Democrats. And, before we get too carried away here with all of this, I want to just point out one last thing. The way that the Electoral College works, a lot of people don't understand the Electoral College and how brilliant it is and what a great idea it is. We don't have a national election for any particular office in the United States of America, right? You have your U.S. senators, right? The state votes for them. You have your U.S. congressman in your congressional district within your state, and you vote democratically for him every 2 years or her every 2 years. The president of the United States when you go out and you vote in an election like this November, when you go out and you vote for Biden or Trump or whoever, you're not actually voting for the president or the vice president. What you're voting for is a slate of electors. There's Republican electors, there's Democratic electors. That's what your state conventions handle, right? So we just recently here in Montgomery County had our senatorial district convention, all right? And then we elected delegates out of our senatorial district convention. They're going to go to the state convention in May in San Antonio. And out of that convention, the convention itself will elect the number of electors that the state has. So in Texas, we have 40. And what that means is each congressional district will get together. I live in Congressional District 8. Morgan Luttrell is my congressman, right? So all the delegates that live in Morgan Luttrell's district will get together and they will nominate somebody to be the elector for their congressional district. And then the body as a whole will also elect 2 seats that are sort of, there to represent the United States senators, right? So they're at-large electors. And we'll have 40 individuals that are supposed to represent the state of Texas. And that they're going to be the Republican slate of electors. And the Democrats are going to do the same thing. And the Libertarian Party is going to do the same thing. Now, I don't think there's a hope in hell of the Libertarian Party winning the electoral vote in Texas. I likewise don't really think that the Democrats are going to pull it off. I know they keep saying they're going to make Texas purple. I don't see it happening this year. So on December 14th, 2024, the Republican slate of electors will get together that were elected at the state convention in May, and they will cast their official ballot for Donald Trump. If Donald Trump wins the popular vote in the state of Texas, then that is the official election results. Those are then transferred. They're certified by the state legislature. They're transferred to the Congress. Vice President Kamala Harris will open them. She will read them on January 6th, and then that will be entered in. Those official electoral results will be entered into the record in Congress. And at that point, boom, the election is actually over. And as long as somebody gets over 270 electoral votes, they then become the president of the United States, and their running mate becomes the vice president of the United States. And they're sworn in on January 20th. So that's how the process is supposed to work. And that is what we are seeing here then. Going off of all of the things that we can see right now, the state of the race right now, I'm going to have to go with this 313 number, assuming, of course, Nebraska does get that winner-take-all bill to pass the legislature there and the governor signs it. So keep track here. Remember, if you get anything from this, to like, follow, subscribe, depending on what you're watching this on. For more, I will do maps like this whenever there's major changes to the electoral map going forward. And, I think we're in for a long ride here. That's how politics works. But we're going to keep our thumb on the pulse here, and I'll keep giving you the information that you need to know. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.